So I'm here with Bill Sharp. We've actually spoken before, Bill, a few months ago now, obviously. But how are you getting on anyway?
I'm doing not too bad. I think when we spoke earlier on, I was sharing a wee bit about the fact that I'd stepped back for the club for a wee while. There was a change in my family circumstances, which meant I had to take a lesser involvement within the club. Whether you're a chaplain or not a chaplain, it doesn't make us immune to the way life is and the challenges that life bring along. And so that meant that I had to take some time back. So I was appreciative of the club here that have given me time to take a sabbatical. So it's been 4 months since I was actually here at the club. So that's a wee while. And also Sports Chaplaincy as well have given me the space to actually do that, to kind of regroup and get things kind of sorted out, support my family through the situation that we're going through just now, and then hopefully we'll see how things go next season. And if the club want me to stay on as a chaplain, then I'll stay on as a chaplain as well. And that's meant that my role as Pastoral Director for the Lowland League as well is taking a wee bit of a back seat. Although I'm still in communication with the boys, I'm not at as many games as I would like to be. So that's making me up to date where I am just now.
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, we've kind of been discussing this for a while to have this chat, and it's obviously important to discuss your role and many others, obviously, of being a sports chaplain. So, what does your role involve, basically, as a sports chaplain?
Well, being a sports chaplain at the football club covers many areas. Whether it be pastoral care, just being there to support the guys, whether it's emotionally because of maybe having an injury and they're taking time to get back into the game. Sometimes just being in the dressing room, sitting along with them, chatting to them, encouraging them, that can make a big difference. The same for whether it be somebody in the playing staff or somebody backroom staff. Obviously, maybe if the season's not going as well as it should, and there's pressure on the manager, which I've had previously, then again being able to support the backroom staff. And then you've got your board of directors and your fans. So I've had the pleasure of conducting the marriage ceremony, one of your fans earlier on in the year. So I've done a wedding, but I've also had to attend many funerals as well for past players and fans as well. So it takes on a huge role within the club. So and most of the chaplains that are in the Lowland League are all doing similar things. So it's a big role and it's a big responsibility, and all the men and women that are involved, because there's a lot of women involved in the women's game as well, give up all their time, to volunteer to do this. So it can be a challenging role, but it's also a very rewarding role when you see, the support that you can offer and give to different people.
In terms of support, Bill, obviously, I think it was when we first sort of discussed this idea, I think it was actually your idea, Bill, but in terms, like, especially nowadays, obviously a lot's been made about mental health, especially on the social media and stuff like that. Is there, in terms of the support that you provide, is it can it sort of help people, or is there a sort of referral system if you're maybe not equipped to deal with certain things?
Yeah, I think most of the sports chaplains, particularly on the football side of it, will have attended a mental health first aid training, which is a 2-day course, which is run by Mark Fleming, who heads up Sports Chaplaincy in Scotland, and supported by the Chris Mitchell Foundation. They fund all that to take place. So most of us will have done that. And again, that allows us to recognise the signs of mental health, to be a signpost to point out, support groups that might be there, just to draw alongside them, should you need to do that. So from that point of view, whether it be, we're talking about mental health, but we also have courses on drug addiction, alcohol addiction, gambling. So all these courses are run, and bereavement. So many of us will have done all these kind of courses. We have training days where we're involved with that, but we'll also have our annual conference. And at that conference, we can have refresher sessions, or we get speakers that come in and speak specifically about particular issues that might be happening in life in general, which is not immune within the football club. So all that kind of takes place from sports chaplain. So I think that if you look at what we actually have to offer, most of us tend to be signposts, being able to point the way there, but all of us are able to at some point maybe recognise and draw alongside somebody and help them in their time of crisis, whatever that may be.
That's brilliant. That's excellent, Bill. In terms of actual football in itself, in terms of the sort of, is it harder, would you say, for footballers to open up because it's kind of a sort of macho thing about it, or do you think it's?
Um, I wouldn't say it was so much it was difficult for them to open up. It all comes down to the end of the day to people's behaviours and how they actually are. You get some people that are open and they'll tell you exactly how they feel, um, and you get others who will close up and don't want to show these kind of things. The benefit that you have as a chaplain is that you sometimes get them in their quiet time. You know, as I said, sometimes if it's maybe in the dressing room where they're going through an injury and you get the opportunity to sit and chat to them when it's on a kind of one-to-one basis. But there are other times, obviously, it's difficult. Banter within a dressing room can be difficult and it can be tough. You know, there's no quarter asked or given. And sometimes that banter, you know, just maybe scratches the surface. And you can usually tell if there's something that's not quite right with somebody's behaviour. When you spend as much time as most of the chaplains do training Tuesday, Thursday at games on a Saturday, you get to know the personalities, you get to know how they are, and you can see their body language and when something changes. So it's just keeping your wits about you and discerning what's actually happening round about, and then you're able to draw alongside and see where they are. So.
Yeah, obviously I won't go into names and stuff, but there has been a few players even this season that have sort of, you know, stopped playing football if they're younger lads and stuff like that due to sort of mental health issues. In terms of not just obviously you guys have done so much, but what can the clubs do and individuals do to help sort of support you know, like mental health and stuff like that?
I think many of the clubs are well on with it, to be perfectly honest with you, because not only do they do it with the chaplains in the club, I know in the next couple of weeks that Camlin Juniors have got Mark coming to actually speak to the players about mental health, first aid and everything else, so making them aware of what's available. And I know that he's done this with other clubs where the actual club themselves have invited them in. So there is always that opportunity for a club to invite Mark to come in and to talk about mental health in general and various other aspects of sort of mental health and well-being. So whether that be, you know, somebody talking about drug addiction, somebody talking about alcohol addiction, gambling addictions, and there's the high-profile one at the moment with Hamilton, Ackies, and you know, there's been a lot of comments that have been made there, and I think, you know, that whole support network and everything that's at the back of it. But as I said, most of this is done by us, and it's done on a pastoral basis and on a confidence basis. So people sharing with us is kept within confidence within that one-to-one conversation. So, but I think most of the clubs are already on with that. They're already making inroads, and they've been given offers all the time. So the Chris Mitchell Foundation, you know, has made a massive impact in what it does. And again, they're always highlighting when there's a training course coming up, and the clubs are all invited to that. So it doesn't need to be a chaplain. It could be the players, it could be a manager, it could be a coach, it could be some of the board of directors if they want to attend these things. So that's out there already for people to actually to be involved. And if it was something that you guys wanted to do, then I can make you aware of the dates that's there, and if there was a thing that you wanted to go and attend and give yourselves the opportunity to see what happens within that mental health first aid side of things, then yeah, that would be made available to people like yourselves as well. So it's not just inclusive to the football side of it. It's for the whole club to be involved.
There's a gentleman actually that works here at Dunfermline Athletic. His name's just evaded me, but yeah, I did notice he was running courses and that recently, as you know, similar mental health courses and whatnot. In terms of the media, this is a bit of an awkward one because obviously we're kind of seen as the media, although I don't particularly like to be associated as such. But in terms of maybe even fans, or if a player is maybe getting sick, or even a manager or anything like that, what sort of advice would you give players just in terms of if they are getting maybe down about negative comments or criticism?
Giving advice is always a difficult thing. I never like to necessarily give advice on something because that's possibly my personal opinion on it when you start giving advice. But what I would look at is is we'd look at the tweets that were coming out, if it was from a Twitter account or a Facebook account, and it's just to help them to be aware of maybe the comments that they're making, but also to talk to fans as well. I know there's many times, and there's people within the club will know that I've maybe sent a personal message to somebody to say, you might want to consider the words that you're using, how things are that's there. But that's how I would deal with that. I would probably take something offline to have that conversation with somebody, and just ask them to reflect on what it is. So I tend to, rather than giving advice, ask them to reflect on the kind of comment they've made, how that might affect an individual, and then how we might actually begin to restore, any kind of relationship that needs to be restored there because of it.
Because it's something I've certainly, on Twitter anyway, I've kind of been very careful about, because there has been, it's football at the end of the day, there has been players that have maybe played bad and stuff.
All passions can run high.
Yep, and but I wouldn't ever want to out a guy unfairly, or, at the end of the day, it's like, we kind of touched on it a wee bit, but it's a game at the end of the day, and people go home, and a lot of guys, they wouldn't give any second thought, they move on, but there might be some players, especially the younger guys, that dwell on it, and I think that's when it becomes difficult, because especially on social media, if we're on a pod, especially if we're maybe criticising a performance of a team, I hope not, but it's like what I tweeted out the other day, I don't know if you saw it, but I really hope any terms of criticism, it's not taken badly as such, but
I'm sure they'll tell you if it is.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know for sure, but I don't think Ricky Waddle's been happy with me lately with Cali Braves and stuff. But no, in all honesty, the chat today is obviously the work that you guys do is brilliant, and it's something certainly I myself and Sean would probably be interested to know more about, because I think on the surface of things, people take a lot of things for granted, especially the work of the volunteers and chaplains and pretty much all over the football club. Unless you're basically there to see it yourself, you do sometimes take things for granted.
I would definitely say that. I mean, there are lots of unsung heroes in many of the clubs, particularly in the Lowland League, where I see the things that go on, particularly here at the football club. There's so many people I could name that this club wouldn't run if it wasn't for the people behind the scenes that make sure the game goes on a Saturday, that make sure that the end of season dance runs smoothly, that programmes are printed every week, that the gates are open and there's somebody there to let somebody through a turnstile. They're the lifeblood of every club. The players go out in the park and they perform and they do what they do. But again, there's so many of them in every club. There isn't a club that you couldn't look at in this league. And even what you guys do, with the Lowland League Catchup, if there wasn't somebody like yourselves doing this, then, as I said to you earlier on, you need to have that outlet where there's somewhere we can have conversations like this, where it gets out into the media as to what's actually taking place within the league itself. So we need all these kind of people involved in various aspects of the club. So I think you're right in what you're saying. There's too many to mention.
Yeah,
name,
definitely.
Within any club, I wouldn't like to sit down and say how many people there are that make sure that clubs run. And what I'll maybe highlight on is when Selkirk left the Lowland League, and the devastation that actually caused to not to just the playing staff, but to all the people who had been been involved with that club over the years. Because all of a sudden, their whole life came to an end. Because everything that they were and wanted to be was associated with Selkirk Football Club. And I know that I spent time with some of the directors and background staff from a pastoral point of view at the end of their demise. So as it means everything to them. These the clubs that you are involved with yourselves, and the fans are passionate about that, and to see a club disappear out of a league, even as an opposing team, it's not nice. It's not nice at all to think that club will never be able to play a game of football again, and that the fans will never have the opportunity to go and see them again, and that's tough, really tough.
There's one person in particular that I think of. I think you'll know who I'm talking about. I won't say their name, but like, yeah, I definitely felt for them, and it's a really good point because a lot of, I think, not so much this season, Bill, but like yourself, I've had like family commitments and stuff, so I've not seen a lot of games, but I try my best. But football is a bit, something you're passionate about. It's definitely an outlet in a lot of people's lives as well, and I think you made a really excellent point there. Like, football does mean a lot to people, but there's also a lot that goes into it as well, and that's a really good point. Just a final thing, Bill. I was actually thinking of asking you this when we first sort of we were still thinking about doing this chat, obviously. But was it difficult as your role as a sports chaplain, combined with being the chairman? Was that kind of difficult?
Well, it certainly had its challenges. I tried my best to keep the two hats separate, and it was difficult, through the whole kind of challenge of being a chaplain and being the chairman. But I did make it clear at the time that I was coming in as it was an interim basis, which kind of stretched a wee bit longer than we had actually anticipated that would be the case. But the other part of it being was that when it came to club finances and players' wages and all that kind of stuff, that I took a back seat from that side of it, because I had to be able to separate these two areas so that the players, I was looking at them from a pastoral point of view and not being involved in the kind of wages and salary aspect or that kind of side of the club. I took on board the kind of roles that would have been, making sure that buses turned up on time, making sure that there were sandwiches at the end of a game, or stuff that was more of a kind of pastoral side of it to the club. But to be perfectly fair, it was really difficult, trying to keep the two of them separate, the relationship with the players separate. So when I come back, I'd already stepped down as a chairman. I advised them that I was going to step down in the August as chairman, because I felt that it was having an impact on where we were. And then obviously this change in my family circumstances meant that I had to take a back step, which, whether it was a God-inspired thing for me, because it's allowed me to kind of reset. It's been like pressing the reset button and having no involvement at all. And now slowly but surely beginning to get to that stage of being able to feel my way back into the club as a chaplain without having the responsibility of a chairman's role within it. So, but no, it is, to be fair, it's difficult. And I think it's difficult for, loads of reasons, because you begin to get more, there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure that comes on the club performing well, doing well, achieving and doing all that kind of stuff. Whereas on the chaplain side of that, there's the emotional aspect of that, because you want the club to do well, and chaplains are competitive. There's no two ways about it. That I know what we're like when we get together, and we share about where we are in the league and how things are going. And I'm sure when I'm in Kelty, their chaplain will be quite happy that he's sitting at the top of the league at the moment. And James and I spent a lot of time with James last year when Whitehall Welfare were going down, to provide support for him, because again there was an emotional aspect to what was taking place within Whitehall Welfare. So that whole side of it can become really difficult and become clouded. It's trying to find, keeping that separate was difficult, and I found that there were times where I sometimes crossed the line, and I felt that the compassion side of my role as a chaplain was being called into question because I was unhappy maybe about a result, or I was unhappy about something else that was going on. And I'm thinking to myself, this isn't right. I shouldn't be feeling that way and causing conflict and within me. And that was a key part as well, is because I shouldn't have that conflict. I should be looking to provide pastoral care and not being able to, not that I was judging anybody for their performance and how they played on the park and that kind of side of things, but just in general, you find yourself starting to get emotionally tied into what's going on. So
that's why I wanted to ask you, actually, because even from an outsider's point of view, I would be like, that's tough. That'd be tough, obviously, because there's, as you said, the emotional, the the caring, but you also kind of have to be obviously strict and hard and have difficult conversations. I would guess.
To be fair, that's the role that I left. All these kind of difficult decisions and that weren't taken by me,
Right.
and I was never in a place where that had to be. That was always. That's why there was a board of directors. I didn't need to be involved with that side of it. There was a group of other people within the club that can make these decisions without having to physically say, right. Now, as a chairman, you would expect me to have to cast and vote, but I didn't have to have that cast and vote, and that was a good thing, is because we could sit around the table here and have these conversations and have these discussions. And it was never down to a stage, and that's again the reason why you never have 4 people and sitting there, and you've got one that you've got to make sure that your balance of your board's right, so that when decisions are made, that you never really leave yourself in that position where a cast and vote. But the guys have been good. There was never really any of that tough decisions that needed to be made from me in that point of view. So,
is there anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to yourselves.
No, it's brilliant.
As I said earlier on before we came on mic, I think you do a great job. I think you challenge the league with some of your posts and the stuff that's there. You're causing debate, and I think that can only be good for us as a league, that it's allowing us to discuss things. And I just want to apologise both for what you do.
Cheers, Bill. Obviously, we appreciate chatting to. I think it's 2 or 3 times we've chatted, and Shire are always fantastic hosts. They've always been great with us. Yourself, Andy, Dell, and the lads as well. And hopefully this won't be the last time we chat, mate.
Well, hopefully not.
And good luck with everything and all the best. Thank you.